So yesterday evening, we had a number of squalls coming through. And with the squalls, you get a lot of disturbed air. And by that I mean the trade winds are no longer blowing with the same intensity or even the same direction as they pass through. And even for a long time after, it takes quite a while for the conditions to get back to a nice steady trade wind type scenario. So during that period, a rather prolonged period, I decided I would drop the main, which wasn't really working for me. When the gusts hit during these squalls, Wave Rover would have a tendency to round up quite a bit. So I thought what I'll do is I'll drop the main and I'll shake out the reef in the jib, and then I'll just have the jib, which is a lot easier to control. But as I did that, I tied on the new tack, I tied the sheets onto the new clew, and then I unrolled the jib, and I went back to the halyard and I started hoisting it. And as I started hoisting, I heard this tearing noise. So I stopped, and when I investigated, what I found was my new jib now has this, I hope you can see that, this great big L-shaped tear, which is about 20 inches from tip to tip. So I could repair that right now in the same fashion that I did on the North Atlantic crossing, but I'm going to hold off and do it when I get to Panama, because I want to lay this out perfectly flat, and I have the material, brand new material, to repair it with, and I'll do it in the same fashion as that North Atlantic repair. But I want to make sure that everything's flat, and and the reason for that is this tear is located pretty much at the reef line, so it's an area that's under quite a bit of strain. So I don't want any creases in it. I want it perfect, because the sail is still practically brand new, and the sail will be fine. After I make the repair, I'm 100% confident that this sail will be as good as it ever was. So that being said, what I did was I took the old jib, took it up on deck, and hoisted it, and it's doing a fine job, and especially that most of this passage is downwind. So let's go up on deck now, and we'll see where this happened, and hopefully we can all learn something from my misfortune here. Damaged by the sea and time, these support brackets that once held the old navigation lights have become a ripping hazard for Wave Rover's sails. With very little effort, I've been able to remove them, but they've left these jagged welds that need to be filed. the sea has been building all day. By evening time, the seas have calmed, the wind has died down somewhat, and Wave Rover is enjoying a beautiful sunset. Well, it's the 12th of December, and Wave Rover has just started her 4th week at sea. We're a little under 900 miles due west of Martinique in the Caribbean. And the outside temperature is about 26 degrees Celsius, and that is about 79 degrees Fahrenheit. The wind has increased overnight, and right now we just have the jib up, but when the wind increases in the gusts, Wave Rover has a tendency to round up into the wind. When that happens, we take quartering seas over the starboard quarter, over the windward quarter, and we end up with water pouring into the cockpit. So I'm going to head up on deck right now, and I'm going to shorten sail. I'm going to take that jib and I'm going to put the reef points in, and I'll see if I can capture that on video. Okay, so I just came in from deck after reefing the jib, and this gives us a whole lot more control. The motion is way better. Before this, she was rounding up, every 10 minutes or so. And probably every 15 to 20 minutes, we were taking a pretty large size wave over the quarter into the cockpit. So now that things are under control again, we're still doing between 4.5 to 5 knots under the reef jib alone. But let's take a look at the chart and see where we've been over the last week and where we are now. Okay, so Wave Rover is right here, the red arrow. And this is where we started from, up here, the Canaries, this little white area. And this little blue dot right here, that's where we were at the end of the first week. Here's the Cape Verde Islands, and this little blue dot right here, that's where we were at the end of the second week. And if you can see it, this little blue dot right here, that's where we were at the end of the third week. That little mark I highlighted right there, a little purple ball on the stick, that's Martinique. And we are 892 miles from there. And this little yellow line you see right here, which is following the black line, which is the course to get to Martinique, that's where we actually have been over since the fourth week started. What you see right here, this red line, this is the heading, but what's happening is this little GPS is very, very sensitive, and every time we hit a wave, it swings around. That's why I've highlighted the yellow line. The yellow line is the actual course we're making good. Now, after we get to Martinique, we'll actually be going between Martinique and St. Lucia. We're not stopping at Martinique. Then we'll be carrying on and coming down here to Panama. So that's another 1,300 nautical miles. But we're making great time. Over the last week, between this blue dot and this blue dot, that was 749 miles. And that's averaging 107 miles a day for Wave Rover. That is excellent for a little boat like this, especially under just a jib. But frankly, we can't really go much faster than that and be under control. And that's an average over 7 days. So some of those days in there, we were well over 107, and some days we were under. So that concludes our little chart talk. You can see we're doing over 5 knots there a moment ago. So we're ranging anywhere between 4.5 to over 5 knots, just under, like I said, a reefed jib. Okay, that concludes our chart talk. So I'd like to make you aware that Wave Rover now has a Patreon page, and you'll find a link to that page in the video description. And once there, you'll find ways that you can support the production of these videos. As well, you might see a colorful P above my left shoulder, and you can click on that. That'll take you to the same page. So until next week's video, I'm wishing you fair winds, and I hope you have a great week.